This is the story of how I went from making 0 to 20k a month in just 2 years. In this video, I'll be able to share my exact journey from 0 to where I am now, as well as the challenges that led me to where I am now. Let's start from the beginning. I started trading 4 years ago. It took me 2.5 years to become profitable and see any sort of consistency. The reason is simple. I didn't have a mentor. I taught myself, which I completely do not regret. However, if you do want your journey to be much faster, I do recommend getting a mentor simply because your learning curve will shorten. But I will say I spent hours and hours staring at the charts. I blew so many accounts. Money was thrown in the bin, literally, because I didn't follow any strategies. I didn't follow any rules. I was just going in blindly. And that is simply why it took me so long. I wanted to give up so many times, but there was just something in the back of my mind thinking and telling me, just keep going. Just keep going. And I don't know what it was, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know what it was, but it worked because I really enjoy trading. Like, it can be very boring because it's just you staring at the charts in your own thoughts, but I find it very interesting. You know, it can be fun and interesting sometimes. So there was just something in me that was like, you need to just keep going, and if you want to get to where you are, this is the way. So I did just that, and after about 2 years, I started to see some kind of consistency in terms of I was still losing, but I wasn't losing more than I was winning. So I was literally level, basically. Let's say I had like $1,000 in my account, I would go under, I would get to like 800, and then I would build it back up to 1,000, then I would go to like 1.2k, then I would go back down to 1,000. It was all within that range, so I literally wouldn't lose more than, let's say, my account wouldn't be less than 800, or it wouldn't be more than like 1.2. Honestly, that was quite a good feeling because I was like, I am almost there. But with that being said, I still was jumping from strategy to strategy. So if there's one tip I can tell you guys, is stick with one strategy. It is honestly 80% psychology and 20% charts, and that is 100% true. I cannot stress this enough. I struggled with my emotions so much because I don't know if it's because I'm a girl, there aren't many girls in trading, so I didn't really have anyone to kind of look up to. I was just following kind of like males, which obviously is very male dominated, which I don't mind, but I want to also share my journey so also the other women out there can feel welcome. And it's like, it's not as scary as it is. It is literally only you and the charts. So please don't be scared to start. I honestly recommend it. If I can do it, trust me, anyone can do it. Back to the story, I started seeing consistency and I was like, I know there's something. I've got something here, even though I didn't really, because the strategy still wasn't there. I was just jumping around. But I kept going, and then finally after that half year here, I was like, okay, this is where I'm starting to pick up. The strategy's starting to work, and that was when I found the strategy that I have right now. I kept doing it and I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, it's starting to work. But one thing I will remember, one of my biggest losses, and it wasn't necessarily money-wise, it was just simply because it hurt so much. I had that £1,000 account, and obviously I was consistent with it, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna just be greedy and trade more. That is when I let emotions take over. And at that point still, I was trading every single day. So now I only take 1 to 2 trades per week because less is more. Trust me, you don't need to trade more than that. But I used to think, oh my gosh, if I don't trade every day, I'm not going to make money and all that stuff, even though I was literally losing all the money. I still thought that if I traded, I would have a higher chance of making more money, which is completely incorrect. Don't feel pressured into trading every single day. You do not need to do that. Only look for the best setups. But there was this one specific day where I was like, I'm going to trade gold. And I don't trade gold or any sort of other stuff apart from currencies, obviously, and Forex. And so I was like, okay, let's just try it. Obviously, you can make more money. I was like, I'm starting to get the hang of this. This is going to be good. I'm going to make more money. I'm getting confident, overly confident. But I was like, let's do this. So I took this trade and I lost. And my risk was literally £200. Obviously, that was a crazy amount for the account. And I was like, okay, I mean, fine, whatever. And then I was like, okay, another setup. And then I traded another, and I lost another 200. And then I literally kept doing that until my account was at 200. So I literally lost £800 in the space of like 20 minutes. And I cannot explain the feeling that I felt. I was like, oh, what have I done? The realization that I had afterwards was crazy, because you think, you know, when you lose trades and whatnot, like, you know, you might be upset a little bit now. Obviously it's different because it's a normal thing, but back then I was like, oh my gosh, I've literally basically blown my account in 20 minutes. What sort of joke is that? And then that's when I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to step and I need to focus, because there's no way I just did that. All that hard work, and I thought I was so close, and then it literally changed within seconds. I was like, I can't I can't be like this. There's no way I'm going to let this happen. That's when I actually started to properly get into it, and I was like, what I was doing was good, and yeah, I did find some sort of consistency with it, but it is not what I want to be doing. And I found my strategy that I obviously trade right now, and that was all I needed. Less is more. You don't need to do overcomplicate stuff. You don't need to trade every single day. And then obviously it took me about half a year to put everything together, and then obviously slowly but surely started becoming profitable, and then we made it and just kept building up. But honestly, the journey was crazy because I honestly was doing random stuff. I was taking trades left, right, and center. Like that trade that I had was literally left, right, and center. There was no reason for it. And then in the back of my head, I knew that I was doing stuff wrong. Like I was like, if I just stop doing this, I will become profitable. But I just kept doing it. I literally had no control over myself, and I was like, I can trade. No, you can't. You're literally not following any rules. You don't even have a strategy. So trust me, guys, when I tell you from experience, please, if your mind, and if your mind is telling you that you're doing something wrong, you are doing something wrong. And obviously if you journal, you can see, oh, I entered too early, or I did this, I didn't actually have a setup that I rushed into this. Please learn from your mistakes, because your journey will seriously shorten, and you will see profitability much sooner if you actually make improvements. Whereas I wasn't. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I just kept switching strategies because I was like, oh, I don't actually want to change myself, and I don't want to improve. I just want to find something new, which is completely wrong. So please don't do that, and just stick with one strategy and control your emotions, because that is the biggest killer when it comes to trading. So if there's somebody out there telling you trading is easy, you can get rich quick, it's a lie, okay? It really takes a lot of hard work and dedication. If you cannot stare at the charts for hours upon end and literally stare at them and try and pick up the smallest things, it will be so hard for you. But obviously it is easier if you do have a mentor, because they can actually guide you in the right direction, whereas I was just doing absolutely anything. I was like, oh, this is gonna work, this is gonna work. Obviously it didn't, but we got there in the end once I took control of my emotions. But please just stay disciplined and stay focused, because if you really want to do this, you can. It is absolutely possible. If it wasn't possible, other people wouldn't be doing it. And also remember, just stay away from the scams, guys. With regards to like signal groups and things like that, they're not really going to teach you how to trade, okay? If you actually want to get a mentor with a community and someone who you can speak to one-on-one, rather than just a signal group. You can't even respond to that. So just pick and choose what you want to do. But I would definitely say, if you want to learn on your own, absolutely, but it is a tough journey, but it is possible. But if you do want to get a mentor, make sure you know who your mentor is. Also, I will touch upon the fact that being a female in this male-dominated industry has got quite the effect, solely because, like I mentioned before, there isn't really many female traders that are like big and you can kind of watch. Obviously, there's one, for example, like Tori Trades. Like, she is an amazing trader. Honestly, hats off to her. But I didn't find it until like later on in my journey when I was already profitable. But like obviously in the beginning, I didn't know of any others. So if you are a woman, I know how hard it is to be able to find a mentor. And to be honest, there's plenty of males out there, and I know that it can be quite intimidating when you have all these males and they're all coming together, and it's kind of hard to, I don't know, obviously it might be hard for you to kind of connect and find someone that you can speak to, and obviously work with one-on-one and just kind of get general advice. It doesn't even have to be like joining their program or anything like that. But I know the feeling that you are going through if you are a woman watching this. So trust me, don't give up, and it is fine. It's honestly not as scary as you think it is. Like I was saying before, it is simply you and the charts. When you start networking, it becomes, different, because you have to meet new people, and most of them are men. But obviously, it isn't as bad as you think it is. So please don't get scared by the fact that it is very male dominated, because it is absolutely worth it. But I do think maybe women have it slightly harder just because of their emotions. We are maybe a little bit more emotional. I don't know, don't hate me, I'm not trying to stir anything, but I think that I was extra careful. Like, I wasn't as willing to take a risk as maybe some of my male friends. Like, sometimes when we would talk about, they would be like, do this, do that, or not necessarily trading, but like they just want to do something, whereas I'm like, I'm gonna think 3 times before I do something. So I don't know if that kind of has an effect. Obviously, I'm no expert, but I thought I'll mention it anyways. But again, don't be scared. But don't be scared, honestly, it is definitely worth it, so I recommend. And to end the video, I thought I'd do a quick little Q&A and kind of answer some questions that beginners have and struggle with the most. So the first question was, how do I find consistency? And that is honestly something that I struggled with, / my emotions mostly. So in order for you to find consistency, you need to just stick with what you have. So I'll use my example again. I was jumping around from strategy to strategy thinking like, oh, I don't want to change what I have now. when I could just find something new. So you want to avoid that. If you have a strategy and you know that it can work and you can make it work, you just have to kind of shift yourself and shift what you're doing, i.e. your emotions, and then you will start to see consistency. Because the moment you start seeing consistency for a little bit, and then let's say you're winning, and then the moment you start losing, you're thinking, I don't really like this anymore, the strategy isn't working. When it is working, losses just happen, okay? And you might let your emotions take over a little bit. So make sure you take control of your emotions and just stick with what you have and improve it, rather than just jump from this strategy to the next strategy, because that honestly changed the game for me. The second question is, where do I get capital? What do I do if I don't have any capital? Just kind of the main concerns with regards to capital. So my biggest advice would be, if you know that you can trade, go for a prop firm. Okay, obviously do your research and make sure the prop firm is all good to go and it actually gives you payouts and all that kind of stuff, all the background checks. But prop firms are such a great way to get into trading and start making good money with just by simply showcasing your skill. Because if you can trade, you can easily pass the challenge, and then you will get a percentage of the profit split, usually kind of 80-90%, and then you can use that money to then put it into your live account. So I would say, don't think that you're stuck and you can't trade just because you have no capital. There are options for you, i.e. the prop firms. Just make sure you do your research, and once you pass the challenge, you should be good to go, and then use that money to fund your account, and then you're good. The final question is, which time frame do I trade on? Now, this is completely up to you. It depends on your strategy. It depends if you're a scalper, day trader, swing trader. I'm more kind of the day/swing trader. So I personally use the weekly, daily, 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour, 30 minute, and 15 minute. And I know that sounds like a lot, but each of those have a purpose. So for example, the higher time frames we use to identify the trend and then help us find our area of interest and just the direction of where we want price to go and if we want to buy or sell. And then the lower time frames are for more specific sniper entries. So I know it sounds like a lot, but I don't like trading just solely off the lower time frames because they can change so quickly. Whereas if you look at the weekly, you can clearly identify the trend and see where price wants to go. So it's a lot cleaner and a lot more reliable, I would say, because the weekly time frame dictates what the lower time frames do. So again, up to you, but those are just the time frames I trade with my strategy, but it is up to you. With that being said, thank you all for listening, and thank you for all the support you guys have given me. I know, like I keep saying, the channel is still brand new, but the support has been crazy, and I appreciate every single one of you guys, and the messages that you are sending really do mean a lot. So if you comment down below what sort of other videos you want me to do, I will do more educational videos, as well as the videos that I've been doing now, kind of lifestyle. So if you have any other suggestions, do let me know. But once again, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.